here's a good question. What do you think about celebrities or women that are like okaying that? You know what I'm saying? I say that in a way like, what could I think of an instance? Like, all I can think is like, a bunch of celebrities like showing their asses on Instagram, and I'm not at all saying that they deserve rape or anything like that. I'm just saying like, what do you think like when they are like showing their ass and like, porn stars Instagram? Oh fuck yeah! Like I followed Instagram porn stars back in the day, duh, Facebook and all that shit, and they're all like, oh fuck me and blah 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 blah, and like doing all these things like, oh hit me up, like I'd love to fuck you, like in acting like this, come fuck me, and guys are just consuming their feed like, oh. Like she wants to get fucked. Like it's okay to just act this way towards women.
That's another tricky one. With Hollywood celebrities showing their asses and whatnot, I think they're kind of in a box where, as you talked about, customer's always right. And sex sells. We know that.
Yep,
we
facts.
see it everywhere.
Yep, 1,000 facts.
Yeah. So I feel like Hollywood celebrities kind of feel like they have to. Like that's what's going to keep them relevant.
Money,
that's what's going to keep them famous. That's what's going to get them in movies and get people talking about them. I mean, we saw Beyonce with that really sheer glittery dress where you saw everything. Yeah. As for Instagram stars, I think you might label them under sex work. And I have a lot of mixed feelings about sex work. I feel like currently it's dangerous because it's not legal, so it's not regulated, so you get a lot of sex trafficking rather than work. And I wish we didn't have to sell our bodies in order to make a profit. I wish there were more options for women. I wish there were more ways that we could make profits. I wish we could go up in companies faster and get promoted faster. But as we know, that's not really an option very often for women. A lot of women are stuck working their secretary jobs or stuck at low-level jobs because they're not, one, they're not as aggressive asking for promotions. And two, a lot of people now are afraid that they look like they're trading their bodies for promotions. So oftentimes sex work is an outlet for women. It's a way for them to sell themselves, but also make money off of that. And while it seems wrong and while it sounds like a really taboo subject, I get where they're coming from. After a few times of mine, I became really promiscuous. I decided that if I always wanted it, then there's no way that they could take that from me.
Right.
If I always initiated, if I always offered, then I couldn't be assaulted because they can't take it if I say yes.
Right.
And so I think a lot of the sexuality is a lot of women just taking that power back.
Right.
And I feel like it's different when women sexualize themselves versus when they are objectified to sell something else. Because if they're selling themselves and then they are still selling their whole selves. But if it's just their ass selling a beer, then they become an object rather than a person. It's really, really fine line.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I'm genuinely asking, like, these are, and the insight you have is awesome. First of all, thanks. It's not like you want to be in this, have this much knowledge, for, the past and shit. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But the fact that you do is good, and I like the word that you're spreading again, and that we can talk about these very difficult things. But I agree. I think, so many things are just, everybody thinks life is black and white. Everything, what I'm saying? And I could have had this like perfect experience, and I'm like, no, this is how you help it. And someone could have the exact same experience, but they got through it in a completely different way.
That's completely true.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many more fucking things than just black and white. So many more. You know what I'm saying? So, but like talking about these, that's why I'm curious, like to have this kind of knowledge, because like I am, like I said, I want to be an advocate for fucking like just like. I guess just the most moral person that there is right now is, I guess, moral, but like, a person that could, it's okay. Like it's two sentences. As long as you're not hurting yourself or somebody else, do whatever the fuck. It's that simple. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
like
exactly.
It's that simple. And there's so many things like gays are okay. It's okay to be lesbians and gays or whatever. It's okay to like, do XYZ and porn and blah, 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 blah. All these things is like, but it gets so complicated when it does trickle into these areas, like, oh, like you do your porn, but then my son ends up watching it or something like that, and you're just like, oh fuck, now like what you're doing is affecting in one way or another, and like we said, it could be that fine line of bad or good or whatever they're consuming. I agree. Like I never thought I would agree, because to me, like it has been addiction, and I would never step into that realm again, just because like I don't want to get that thinking. I think I'm doing a lot better of how I'm acting towards my fiance and women in general because like of that. But at the same time, I never considered that what I was watching was so much of that shit. Maybe if I was watching a little bit more soft core, like love, like
Yeah.
actually true love, it would have been like a little bit different. But it's also like if anybody wants to fight porn in general, let's say fucking like, what about Game of Thrones? Like that's fucking porn. You know what I'm saying?
Game of Thrones has a lot of issues in and
Yeah.
of itself. I couldn't get through it because of all the rape it did have. And I know people said that it was to be historically accurate, but I mean, where are the hairy women then? All of the women had fully shaved armpits and
Oh,
perfect
fuck.
hair, and they if you want accuracy, then have all the accuracy. Don't just have the traumatic accuracy. And
Right.
most Game of Thrones viewers turn out to be men, which makes sense
Yeah.
considering the porn most men watch. So you see a lot of tits, you see a lot of rape.
Only a couple penises.
Yeah, and one of them was chopped off.
Yeah, literally. Like, yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. Well, until last season, but I am a huge fan. But you're right, there are a lot of politics that do play into these things, and I haven't researched like hair and all that. I don't know anything like about that stuff, but I could totally agree. Like, I think a lot of like things are changed to better apply to women. I mean, even if it was like, I mean, we've seen time and time again, like when like a movie's made about a real person, the real person's always a little bit chubbier or less attractive, but the person that plays them is very much more attractive and blah 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 blah. Like they could have like an identical twin, and they're like, we need to up that up because then, like it will sell more tickets because you're a beautiful person. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So I totally agree with that. But yeah, like you know, people like, oh, like this is okay or bad or whatever you may think, but there's a point where it's like there's porn online, but there is porn trickling into things like Game of Thrones or Shameless or whatever it may be that has this nudity.
Right.
And again, I'm at the same place. I'm still in this weird spot, like what is okay and what's not. You know what I'm saying? Because I've gotten to like a point where I'm like, okay, porn's not okay online. And to look it up and to masturbate and have these tendencies, like for me personally, like that's just not okay for me anymore. But when I'm with my fiance and we're laying down and watching Shameless or Game of Thrones and you see some tits or something come on and you're just like, oh, you know, and it's like you move on from it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I want to, at the time I'd be like, oh my God, boobies. I haven't seen other people's boobs in so long, you know? And now it's finally got to the point, like after, you know, just a couple of months with my fiance, I got to the point where it was just like, oh, like it's just boobs. Like, you know,
Right.
it's like I move on to it. I don't think about it. I'm not like I don't masturbate to it later and be like, oh, boobs, you know, whatever. Like it goes over my head. It's done. But I think that's just a large part because I finally cut porn in general out of my life. But again, it is personally. You know what I'm saying? Like, this whole conversation can be as big as like drinking. Like, drinking is addictive, but people drink and are totally fine their entire lives.
Right.
They could be totally social drinkers. Like, maybe the same is for porn. You know, maybe you can watch a little bit of porn or get off a couple, you know, whatever, a little bit or whatever. That could totally be harmless.
I think the key really with porn is just the type. Definitely avoid rapey things. Like that episode where what's his name, the big dude, Jason Momoa,
Oh, yeah.
where he raped her and then they turned it into a loving relationship. That's really where it killed me right there.
Yeah, Khal
because
Drogo. I didn't think about that. That's a good point.
yeah, their relationship
he
started out
raped her
just
and
continuous
then-
rape, and then she eventually decided to accept
subdued.
it, and that turned into love.
And then she loved him, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really, really toxic thing to be teaching people.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
didn't think about
subliminal.
this.
Yeah.
That fucking keyword, subliminal is 100%, like I said, with the movies and everything. It's so hard to, like, again, we live in a very this is all okay, what we're thinking, what we're doing, blah 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 blah.
Right.
But when you like look back, you're like, holy shit, there's so many messages. Like, just being woke enough, being like, just that. It's like, why are there no bigger women in just a normal love film? Why? And you're just like, because your whole life you can go through a freaking whole like 1,000 DVD cabinet, pull out the movies of like bigger woman in a serious film. It's not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Or like a very attractive male. Like, why can't like a girl ever just like when can like a scene come to your mind? And I'm a huge movie watcher. Okay, when can a scene come to your mind where like a beautiful, skinny waisted, attractive woman like looks over and there's like a chubby male taking off his shirt and she's like, oh my god. You know, like, because the male has to be abs, attractive, V-line, you know, like it's just how it is. And it's so hard to just accept yourself because all this shit and all these messages that are put into your brain.
Perfection is pushed on us hard.
Perfection is fucking. So what do we have to accept? Imperfection, bitches. Perfect plug. Like,